Stories and Documentary Network. Welcome back to our channel. The Kingdom of Sheba stands as one of the most intriguing and legendary ancient civilizations in the annals of history. Despite its mysterious nature and limited concrete evidence, the grandeur of Sheba has captivated historians, archaeologists, and theologians for centuries. The kingdom, often referred to in historical texts, religious scriptures, and oral traditions, is most famously remembered for its Queen of Sheba, a powerful ruler whose wisdom, wealth, and extraordinary journey to meet King Solomon of Israel have transcended cultural and religious boundaries. Sheba's prominence as a major player in international trade and diplomacy, along with its wealth generated from the incense, spice, and gold trades, positioned the kingdom as a dominant force in the Arabian Peninsula and the Horn of Africa from antiquity. Located at the crossroads of two major continents, Africa and Asia, the Kingdom of Sheba flourished in the region that today encompasses modern Yemen and Ethiopia. Despite its apparent prosperity, the kingdom's decline remains shrouded in mystery, leaving behind a legacy that continues to capture the imagination of people worldwide. The historic and mythical accounts of Sheba's culture, governance, and relationships with neighboring empires reveal a society rich in religious devotion, architectural achievement, and material wealth. The Kingdom of Sheba traces its origins to the fertile and strategic regions of the Arabian Peninsula and the Horn of Africa, areas rich in trade and cultural exchange. These regions, straddling the Red Sea and Indian Ocean, served as a hub for ancient civilizations due to their proximity to vital trade routes connecting the Mediterranean, Africa, and Asia. Early settlers in these areas benefited from the availability of resources such as fertile land, frankincense, myrrh, and minerals. The development of Sheba began with the migration of Semitic-speaking peoples into southern Arabia around the 2nd millennium BCE. These groups established agricultural communities, utilizing advanced irrigation techniques to cultivate crops in the arid landscape. Similar developments occurred across the Red Sea in the Horn of Africa, where the Ethiopian highlands became another cradle of civilization. Over time, these settlements grew into small city-states that thrived on agriculture and trade. The convergence of trade routes in this region fostered the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures. Coastal settlements became essential nodes in the maritime trade networks, linking Egypt, Mesopotamia, India, and East Africa. Goods like spices, textiles, ivory, and gold flowed through these trade routes, enriching local economies and laying the groundwork for larger, centralized political entities such as Sheba. The rise of Sheba as a unified political entity is attributed to the centralization of power in southern Arabia. By approximately the 8th century BCE, disparate tribes and city-states in the region began to coalesce under a single authority, forming what would become the Kingdom of Sheba. This unification process was driven by economic necessity, as control over trade routes required cooperation among local powers. The city of Marib, located in present-day Yemen, emerged as the political and economic center of Sheba. Its strategic location near the Marib Dam, an engineering marvel of the ancient world, enabled the efficient management of water resources, supporting agriculture and sustaining the growing population. The dam's irrigation systems allowed the cultivation of crops like wheat, barley, and dates, ensuring food security and economic stability. The leadership of Sheba likely consisted of a monarchy supported by a hierarchical administration. The ruler, often referred to as the Mukarib, unifier or priest king, played a dual role as both a political leader and a religious figure. This centralized authority helped to maintain internal stability, enabling Sheba to expand its influence and consolidate its control over trade routes, including the lucrative incense trade. The Kingdom of Sheba is perhaps best known for its association with myth and legend, particularly the story of the Queen of Sheba, a figure whose legacy transcends history and culture. According to the Hebrew Bible, the Queen of Sheba traveled to Jerusalem to meet King Solomon, bringing lavish gifts of gold, spices, and precious stones to test his wisdom. This story is echoed in the Quran, which recounts the Queen's encounter with the prophet Solomon and her eventual conversion to monotheism. While these accounts are steeped in myth, they provide valuable insights into Sheba's wealth, diplomatic reach, and cultural significance. The depiction of Sheba as a land of opulence and sophistication aligns with archaeological evidence that highlights its prominence as a trade hub. Ancient inscriptions and ruins in Yemen corroborate the existence of a powerful Sabaean kingdom, with references to its rulers, temples, and administrative practices. Archaeological discoveries, such as the Temple of Almaka in Marib, provide tangible evidence of Sheba's religious and political structures. Almaka, the moon god, was the chief deity of the Sabaeans, and his worship underscored the kingdom's spiritual identity. Inscriptions in the ancient South Arabian script reveal details about trade, taxation, and governance, offering a glimpse into the kingdom's administrative sophistication. The environment of Sheba was a diverse blend of desert landscapes, fertile river valleys, and coastal plains. In Yemen, the city of Marib served as the kingdom's political and economic hub, located near the Marib Dam, which transformed the arid land into a fertile oasis. The dam's sophisticated irrigation systems supported agricultural activities, particularly the cultivation of wheat, barley, and dates, vital for sustaining both the population and the economy. Meanwhile, the Ethiopian highlands offered a contrasting terrain, with its lush valleys and rivers providing additional agricultural resources and trade opportunities. The kingdom's location along the Red Sea coast further amplified its strategic importance. The narrow straits of Bab el-Mandeb served as a gateway between the Indian Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea, making Sheba a key player in maritime trade. This position enabled the kingdom to dominate the movement of goods between Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, establishing Sheba as a powerful economic and cultural center. Sheba's wealth and influence were largely derived from its abundant natural resources, many of which were highly sought after in the ancient world. Chief among these were frankincense and myrrh, aromatic resins harvested from trees native to the region. These resins were essential in religious rituals, embalming practices, and medicine across ancient civilizations, from Egypt to Mesopotamia and Greece. Sheba's monopoly on these resources ensured a steady stream of wealth through trade. In addition to incense, the kingdom was a source of spices, gold, and other luxury items. Spices, particularly those imported from the Indian subcontinent, were re-exported from Sheba to Mediterranean and Near Eastern markets. Gold, mined or acquired through trade with African regions such as Nubia, further solidified Sheba's reputation as a land of opulence. The kingdom also traded in ivory, leather, and exotic animals, which were in high demand among the elites of ancient societies. Agriculture also played a crucial role in Sheba's economic foundation. The controlled irrigation provided by the Sabaean Dam allowed the cultivation of surplus crops, which could be traded or stored for times of scarcity. Livestock, including camels, goats, and cattle, complemented the agricultural economy, with camels also serving as a key mode of transportation along trade routes. As a land-based and maritime crossroads, Sheba facilitated the movement of goods between the Indian Ocean, the Persian Gulf, the Red Sea, and the Mediterranean. This pivotal role in trade was central to the kingdom's economic and political power. Sheba controlled sections of the Incense Road, an ancient caravan route that transported frankincense, myrrh, and spices from southern Arabia to the markets of the Mediterranean and Mesopotamia. This route traversed the Arabian Peninsula, passing through key trading hubs like Petra and Damascus, before reaching destinations such as Egypt and Rome. The ability to regulate this trade not only enriched the kingdom but also allowed it to exert influence over neighboring states and empires. The kingdom's maritime connections were equally significant. Ports along the Red Sea coast facilitated the exchange of goods between Africa, India, and Arabia. Ships laden with spices, textiles, and precious stones from India docked in Sheban ports, where these goods were either consumed locally or redistributed along the Incense Road. Similarly, African goods such as gold, ivory, and slaves were funneled through Sheba into the Arabian and Near Eastern markets. The Kingdom of Sheba was a monarchy, where central authority rested in the hands of a ruling king or queen. Among the most renowned figures in its history is the Queen of Sheba, a figure of great intrigue and significance in religious and historical traditions. She is mentioned in biblical, Quranic, and Ethiopian sources, depicted as a wise and wealthy ruler who engaged in diplomacy and trade with King Solomon of Israel. Her story underscores the symbolic importance of the monarchy, blending myth with history and emphasizing Sheba's centrality in the ancient world. The monarchy in Sheba was likely dynastic, with succession passing within the royal family. However, the exact practices surrounding succession remain a topic of scholarly debate. Some sources suggest a matrilineal system, where royal descent was traced through the female line, ensuring the queen's prominent role in governance. Others propose a more patriarchal model akin to other contemporary kingdoms. Regardless of the specifics, the monarchy served as a stabilizing force and a symbol of unity, wielding both political and religious authority. The central figure of the monarch was not merely an administrative leader but also a custodian of Sheba's wealth and prosperity. Kings and queens were considered intermediaries between the divine and their subjects, overseeing the kingdom's economic and spiritual well-being. This dual role bolstered their legitimacy, making the monarchy an institution deeply entrenched in the fabric of Sheban society. The governance of Sheba was supported by a sophisticated administrative system, designed to manage the kingdom's vast territory and complex trade networks. At the core of this system was the royal court, which housed advisors, scribes, and officials responsible for overseeing the kingdom's day-to-day operations. This centralized bureaucracy enabled efficient management of resources, collection of taxes, and maintenance of trade routes. Regional governance was likely delegated to local rulers or governors who managed specific provinces or cities. These officials were responsible for enforcing the monarch's policies, maintaining order, and ensuring the smooth flow of trade and tribute to the capital. Local rulers were often members of the aristocracy, whose loyalty to the central authority was maintained through a combination of incentives and oversight. The integration of diverse regions under this administrative framework contributed to Sheba's cohesion and stability. Sheba's ability to construct monumental infrastructure, such as the Marib Dam, is a testament to its administrative capabilities. The construction and maintenance of this dam required meticulous planning, resource allocation, and coordination across different sectors of society. It highlights the kingdom's capacity for large-scale projects that supported its agricultural and economic base. The legal system in Sheba also reflected its administrative sophistication. While little direct evidence of Sheba's laws exists, inscriptions and records from neighboring kingdoms suggest that the Shebans adhered to a codified system of laws. These laws likely regulated trade, property rights, and social conduct, ensuring the smooth functioning of the kingdom's economy and society. One of Sheba's key neighbors was the Kingdom of Aksum, located in modern-day Ethiopia and Eritrea. The relationship between these two entities evolved over centuries, ranging from trade partnerships to territorial disputes. Aksum eventually rose to prominence, absorbing parts of Sheban territory, particularly during the later decline of Sheba. Despite this rivalry, the cultural and economic exchanges between the two kingdoms left a lasting legacy in the region. The Shebans also maintained close ties with the Kingdom of Sheba, located in the southern Arabian Peninsula. Some scholars argue that Sheba may have been an integral part of Sheba or a closely allied state during certain periods. Their shared linguistic, cultural, and religious practices suggest significant overlap and cooperation in managing trade and regional influence. Further afield, Sheba engaged with powerful empires like the Persian Empire and Mesopotamian states. The exchange of goods such as frankincense, myrrh, and gold established Sheba as a key player in the transcontinental trade networks. Diplomatic ties with these empires were facilitated by Sheba's control over critical trade routes, ensuring its influence extended beyond its immediate neighbors. One of the most remarkable achievements in Sheba's agricultural history was the construction and maintenance of the Marib Dam. This engineering marvel harnessed seasonal rainfall, channeling water to irrigate vast tracts of land. The dam not only supported agricultural production but also enabled Sheba to store surplus crops, ensuring food security during droughts. This advanced irrigation system exemplifies the kingdom's technological ingenuity and its ability to sustain a growing population. Livestock also played a critical role in Sheba's agrarian economy. The region's herders raised camels, goats, and sheep, which provided meat, milk, wool, and transportation. The camel, in particular, became a cornerstone of Sheban trade, enabling the transportation of goods across arid deserts and facilitating long-distance commerce. The wealth of the Kingdom of Sheba was significantly bolstered by its strategic position as a hub of international trade. Sheba's dominance over key trade routes allowed it to control the flow of lucrative goods between Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, and the broader Mediterranean and Asian worlds. Among the most sought-after commodities were frankincense and myrrh, aromatic resins used for religious rituals, medicine, and cosmetics. These items, often referred to as the gold of the desert, were in high demand in ancient Egypt, Greece, Rome, and Mesopotamia. Sheba also became a critical supplier of gold, mined from deposits in the region or obtained through trade with African partners. Gold was not only a medium of exchange but also a symbol of wealth and power, further enhancing Sheba's prestige in the ancient world. Other valuable exports included spices, ivory, and gemstones, which flowed through Sheba's ports and overland caravan routes. The kingdom's strategic location allowed it to act as an intermediary in the trade of goods such as silk from China and textiles from India, which were transported via the Trans-Arabian and Red Sea trade routes. The Shebans established thriving ports along the Red Sea, facilitating maritime trade with regions as far afield as the Horn of Africa, the Levant, and the Mediterranean basin. Sheba's integration into these trade networks brought immense wealth to its rulers and merchants. The economic surplus generated from trade funded monumental construction projects, fortified cities, and cultural patronage, solidifying Sheba's reputation as a prosperous and sophisticated kingdom. Sheba's extensive trade networks were not merely conduits for goods, they also served as channels for cultural exchange, shaping the kingdom's identity and leaving a lasting imprint on the ancient world. Contact with Egypt, Greece, and Rome introduced the Shebans to new artistic and architectural styles, many of which were adapted and integrated into local traditions. For example, Greek and Roman column designs influenced Sheban temple architecture, creating a unique blend of indigenous and foreign elements. Trade also facilitated the exchange of ideas, particularly in the realms of religion and literature. The Shebans adopted aspects of Egyptian and Mesopotamian religious practices, integrating them with their own spiritual traditions. The spread of writing systems, such as the South Arabian script, enabled the recording of royal decrees, trade transactions, and religious texts, enhancing Sheba's administrative efficiency and cultural legacy. The cultural exchange extended to daily life, as goods such as pottery, jewelry, and textiles from distant lands enriched Sheban society. These artifacts reflect the cosmopolitan nature of the kingdom, where merchants and travelers from diverse cultures interacted, bringing with them innovations and traditions that left an indelible mark on Sheban civilization. The Kingdom of Sheba was characterized by a rich and multifaceted religious tradition that reflected its geographical position at the crossroads of Africa, Arabia, and the ancient Near East. The Shebans practiced a polytheistic religion, worshipping a pantheon of gods, each associated with specific natural elements and aspects of life. Among the most prominent deities were Almaka, the moon god and protector of agriculture, Athtar, a fertility god associated with the planet Venus, and Bacchus, linked to wine and revelry, although his worship might reflect later Hellenistic influences. Almaka held a particularly central role in Sheban religious practices. He was venerated as the kingdom's supreme deity, symbolizing the fertility and abundance of the land, vital to an agrarian society. Temples dedicated to Almaka, adorned with intricate carvings and inscriptions, served as both religious centers and places of administrative activity, reflecting the intertwined nature of governance and worship. The Shebans also demonstrated a unique syncretism between African and Arabian religious traditions, incorporating elements from neighboring cultures into their own spiritual practices. This blending was facilitated by Sheba's extensive trade networks, which brought new ideas, symbols, and rituals. Connections with Egypt and Mesopotamia introduced solar and astral worship elements, influencing Sheban cosmology and temple design. These external influences did not replace indigenous traditions but rather enriched them, creating a dynamic and evolving religious culture. Central to Sheba's cultural and religious identity was the figure of the Queen of Sheba, who embodied wisdom, power, and divine favor. In both biblical and Quranic traditions, the queen is portrayed as a ruler of extraordinary intellect and influence, visiting King Solomon to test his wisdom and engaging in a historic exchange of ideas and gifts. This encounter has been interpreted as a symbolic representation of the cultural and religious exchanges that defined Sheba's legacy. In Sheba, the queen's role extended beyond governance. As a custodian of the state's spiritual life, she was responsible for upholding religious rituals, maintaining the favor of the gods, and ensuring harmony between the diverse cultural and religious influences within the kingdom. The queen's dual role as a political and spiritual leader reinforced her authority and legitimacy, positioning her as a unifying figure in Sheban society. The association of the Queen of Sheba with wisdom and divine insight had lasting cultural significance. Her story became a symbol of Sheba's intellectual and spiritual richness, inspiring later artistic and literary works across cultures, including Ethiopian, Jewish, and Islamic traditions. In Ethiopia, she is identified as Makeda, the progenitor of the Solomonic dynasty, further cementing her role as a cultural bridge between Sheba and the Horn of Africa. One of Sheba's most notable contributions to architecture was the construction of monumental temples and sanctuaries, such as the Awam Temple in Marib, dedicated to Almaka. These structures were characterized by their grandeur, symmetry, and intricate carvings, showcasing the kingdom's advanced engineering and aesthetic sensibilities. The use of finely cut stone blocks, often arranged in geometric patterns, exemplifies Sheba's architectural mastery. Many temples were adorned with inscriptions in the South Arabian script, providing valuable insights into Sheba's religious practices, governance, and daily life. In addition to religious architecture, Sheba's urban centers featured palaces, fortifications, and marketplaces, reflecting the kingdom's wealth and its role as a hub of trade and culture. Public works, such as irrigation systems and reservoirs, also bore artistic elements, highlighting the integration of functionality and aesthetics in Sheban society. Sheban art extended beyond architecture to include pottery, metalwork, and sculpture. The kingdom's artisans produced intricately decorated vessels, jewelry, and figurines, often incorporating motifs of plants, animals, and celestial symbols. These items, traded across Sheba's extensive networks, spread the kingdom's artistic influence to distant lands, including Ethiopia, the Levant, and the Mediterranean. Sheba's cultural and religious legacy profoundly influenced neighboring regions, particularly Ethiopia, which shares deep historical and mythological ties with the kingdom. The architectural styles of Sheba, characterized by stone masonry and geometric design, can be seen in the early constructions of the Aksumite Empire, which succeeded Sheba as a dominant power in the Horn of Africa. The story of the Queen of Sheba, as preserved in Ethiopian tradition, also underscores the kingdom's enduring cultural impact. In Ethiopian Christianity, she is revered as the mother of Emperor Menelik I, the legendary founder of the Solomonic dynasty. This narrative not only connects Ethiopia to Sheba but also reinforces the kingdom's role as a bridge between African and Arabian cultures. The Queen of Sheba's legendary journey to meet King Solomon stands as one of the most iconic tales in ancient history and mythology. This encounter, recounted in religious texts such as the Bible, the Quran, and Ethiopian tradition, symbolizes the exchange of wisdom, culture, and wealth between two great kingdoms. According to the biblical narrative in 1 Kings chapter 10 verses 1 to 13 and 2 Chronicles chapter 9 verses 1 to 12, the queen, intrigued by Solomon's fame and wisdom, traveled to Jerusalem with a grand caravan carrying gold, spices, and precious stones to test his intellect with riddles. Impressed by Solomon's answers and his kingdom's splendor, she is said to have bestowed lavish gifts upon him before returning to her land. In Islamic tradition, the Queen of Sheba, known as Bilqis, is mentioned in Surah An-Naml 27, 20-44. Here, she is portrayed as a wise yet pagan ruler who converts to monotheism after her meeting with Solomon, guided by his wisdom and her own enlightenment. This version emphasizes her intelligence, diplomatic acumen, and eventual submission to divine truth. Ethiopian tradition, particularly the Kebra Nagast, The Glory of Kings, offers a unique perspective. It identifies the queen as Makeda, ruler of Sheba, and elaborates on her relationship with Solomon. According to this account, their meeting led to the birth of Menelik I, the founder of the Solomonic dynasty in Ethiopia. This narrative underscores the queen's role as a cultural and spiritual bridge, linking Sheba to the Ethiopian monarchy and establishing her as an ancestor of Ethiopian kings. While the story of the Queen of Sheba is celebrated across cultures, its historical accuracy remains a topic of debate. Archaeological evidence from Marib, modern-day Yemen, the heart of the ancient Sheban kingdom, reveals a thriving civilization known for its wealth, advanced irrigation systems, and trade in luxury goods like frankincense and myrrh. These findings support the possibility of a powerful Sheban ruler capable of undertaking such a monumental journey. However, the absence of direct references to the Queen of Sheba in contemporary Sheban inscriptions or other ancient records raises questions about her historicity. Some scholars argue that her story may be a composite of multiple traditions, blending historical facts with mythological elements to create a figure that embodies idealized virtues of wisdom, power, and diplomacy. In religious traditions, the Queen's tale serves allegorical purposes. In Judaism and Christianity, she exemplifies the recognition of divine wisdom, while in Islam, her story highlights the triumph of monotheism over idolatry. The Ethiopian account, deeply intertwined with national identity, underscores the divine legitimacy of Ethiopian rulers, tracing their lineage to Solomon and the Queen. In literature, she appears in works like John Milton's Paradise Regained, where she is depicted as a seeker of divine wisdom. African and African-American writers, such as Toni Morrison in Song of Solomon, have drawn upon her legacy to explore themes of identity, heritage, and empowerment. In visual art, the Queen of Sheba has been portrayed in various forms, from Renaissance paintings to modern sculptures. Artists often emphasize her regal bearing, exotic origins, and the opulence of her journey to Solomon. Notable depictions include Claude Lorraine's 17th-century painting The Embarkation of the Queen of Sheba and Piero della Francesca's fresco cycle in Arezzo, Italy. In popular culture, she has appeared in films, television, and music, often embodying a mystical allure. For instance, the 1959 film Solomon and Sheba, starring Gina Lollobrigida, reimagines her story as a tale of romance and intrigue. Musicians like Bob Marley have referenced her in songs, celebrating her connection to Ethiopian heritage and Rastafarian beliefs. Environmental challenges may also have played a role in the kingdom's decline. While Sheba's location in the fertile highlands of Yemen and Ethiopia allowed for the cultivation of valuable crops like frankincense and myrrh, it is possible that changing climatic conditions, such as prolonged droughts or shifts in rainfall patterns, affected agricultural production and the kingdom's ability to maintain its wealth. The decline in agricultural productivity, combined with increasing pressure on resources due to overpopulation or mismanagement, could have undermined the kingdom's economic stability. Throughout its history, Sheba faced invasions and attacks from neighboring powers, which contributed to its decline. The rise of the Aksumite kingdom in the 4th century CE marked a significant shift in the region's power balance. The Aksumites, with their own rich resources, strong military, and expanding trade networks, eventually became a dominant force in the Horn of Africa. They not only overshadowed Sheba's influence but also initiated military incursions into Sheba's territory. Over time, Aksum's control over trade routes, coupled with its dominance in the Red Sea, further diminished Sheba's strategic importance and economic power. The expansion of other neighboring states, including the Himyarite kingdom in southern Arabia, further destabilized Sheba. The Himyarites, influenced by Christianity and their own ambitions, increasingly encroached upon Sheba's territory and influence, eventually contributing to the kingdom's disintegration. Additionally, the rise of Islam in the 7th century CE and the subsequent spread of Arab influence in the region brought new dynamics that led to the eventual incorporation of the former Sheban territories into the expanding Islamic caliphates. In Yemen, remnants of Sheban culture can still be found in the region's architecture, language, and traditions. The Sabaean script, which was used by Sheba for inscriptions and records, influenced the development of later South Arabian scripts.